All right, so welcome to the F&F Podcast. This is episode 3. This week we have Nick on.
What's up, guys?
Thank you for joining us, Nick. And for those of you who don't know who Nick is, Nick, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do here at Zox?
So I am, let's see, my title's recently changed, but essentially I am the person who's in charge of all of the product for Zox, both the design and the production of it. So I'm just, kind of start to finish, making sure that we're getting you cool stuff to find on our website.
Cool. Yeah. Lots of production pipelines there.
There sure are. Yeah, it's dealing with the factories, dealing with various artists all over the country in some cases, working with the internal team, making sure Jason's getting what he's looking to do. And it's a lot, for sure. But, we keep up. We do all right.
It's a long list. Yeah.
Get to work on monsters and advent calendars. That's we're in the middle of starting that already. So
and it's just the end of February, and you're getting ready for your end of year stuff.
We have to, because you got to get the production into the pipeline with the factories like a good month and a half, 2 months ahead of when you actually need it.
Dang.
And when you're talking about stuff like monsters and like advent calendar, that's more complex than our normal product, because our normal product, it's like, you get the strap, the card, the bag, and then it's done. Whereas with these, like, they've got to match certain things. Like, with the monsters, there's pins that have to be matched to the cards and then packed together. And, if we do what we did last year, where we had 2 different versions of the monsters, that compounds the issue. So it really depends. But some of those bigger projects we get going a lot faster. Yeah. Just because you kind of have to. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember who I was talking to, but they're already starting on, probably Chelsea is starting on designs for the Advent calendar already.
She's going to be handling the Advent calendar this year, so she's starting.
And I think that was like right about when I first started. Yeah. She was like, I'm already
talking
working on
about
next
it,
year.
and coming up with at least the plans for it and whatnot. But she'll have a pretty solid plan within the next week or two, and then we'll start executing on it. So
nice.
Yeah, we start pretty early on some of those special projects, just because they take a long time to get done, and want to make sure they're done right, and we're not waiting for them to arrive when it's time to release them.
Can't do any last minute stuff with anything like this.
We tried that last year, not on purpose, but there was a lot of production challenges globally. It had nothing to do with just us. It was just there was supply line issues and shipping issues and all that kind of stuff. So we learned some lessons from last year, so we're getting a little bit ahead this year.
Yeah. Some ships getting stuck in canals and stuff.
That's the worst year for something like that to happen, to be honest.
Yeah. So, well, it's freezing in here.
It's better than it was, because we got the heater going finally.
But that's why we're jacketed up. Yeah.
I'll probably be able to take this off in 10 minutes. It's definitely a lot warmer in here than it was 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, that thing put out a surprising amount of heat. Yeah. It was funny because yesterday was like 85?
Yeah, I think it was 85 during the day, and today it's 42, 43, something like that. Yeah. Freezing cold.
I think it actually might be colder than that. It's probably it's like 30 degrees right now.
Is it 30?
It's 30 degrees right now.
There's no way it's below freezing.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's supposed to sleet any second now. It says it says it's snowing right now, but I don't know.
It's probably snowing somewhere else in the city.
Yeah, probably pretty close.
Oh, wonderful. Can't wait.
Yeah. So
I thought that was tomorrow.
It's going to be great. Yeah. All right. Well, this week's strap that we're going to be talking about is going to be balance. So you have that right here in front of you.
Cool.
So take a look at that.
Definitely remember this one.
You remember the production on this and everything?
I do. I believe if I have it correctly, I believe that Bruce Lee is the one that did this design.
Really?
I think so. Now while I am kind of heading up the design and production, I'm not the art director anymore. So Darren is now the art director, and has been for some time actually. He's the one that works directly with the artist, so he would be able to confirm for sure. But I'm fairly certain this one's a Bruce Lee, and I actually worked with Bruce Lee at a previous company, so I've known the guy for like 10, 15 years. He's awesome. He's insanely talented. But
and Bruce Lee, this is
not the actual fighter. I don't know if you know this, but he passed away a long time ago. Bruce Lee's from Hong Kong. No, sorry, he's not from Hong Kong. My bad. He's from Taiwan. He's got the same actual Chinese name as the real Bruce Lee. So when he came to the States 15 years ago, and he had to pick the American name, he just picked Bruce Lee because it's the same name. So he's been Bruce Lee. It's pretty funny. When I used to work with him, his email signature had a picture of Bruce Lee in his little yellow tracksuit at like the very bottom. So nobody believes he's actually Bruce Lee, but that's his real name.
That's funny. That's good. I would play into it too if my name was like, I don't know, Steven Spielberg.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah, that's funny. That's so cool. But I chose this strap for this week just because I was telling Jordan earlier today, I was like, I pick straps that I I have stories about. So,
right.
But balance is one of those things that I think about a lot, especially when it comes to like work-life balances. That's probably where you hear it the most
The
nowadays.
biggest one, probably, yeah.
Yeah, is that work-life balance. And so that was like something I was dealing with pretty recently here, actually before I started working at Zox.
Yeah.
Just because it was the last job that I had was like service into it was dental.
Okay.
So, which is not my favorite thing.
Right.
So, it was a lot of working from like it was like 7:15 till about 6:30 at night, like every day during the week.
Yep, I can hear that.
And then coming home and doing stuff like this. So,
Wow.
it was like
so
that.
your last gig, you weren't able to do this stuff. It was something totally like unrelated.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. So, well, I won't say the name of the company, but it was I was a manager at a dental office. So
I'm sure it was fine for what it was, but it just wasn't.
Yeah.
The balance you were looking for. So
exactly. Yeah. Because I couldn't. Well, it's great here coming here. It's like I do all this, everything that I do outside of work, I'm able to do it here.
Yeah, be careful.
So I can kind of scratch that itch.
It's going to stop being fun to do outside of work. Be careful.
It's already getting there. No, it's funny because I had another company that I was working with that I've kind of like, I'm still settling in here. And so that's kind of like fallen to the wayside a little bit.
Like that kind of freelancey type stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, well, I'm already like scratching that itch here. So
I've completely like bowed out of all freelance stuff. I used to do a lot of freelance stuff. I've been in apparel design for, I don't know, 20 years almost.
Really?
Prior to Margaritaville. That was my last company. Sorry, prior to Zox. I was working in apparel for a lot of years, and so in the companies I worked for, I wasn't really doing the types of apparel that I really wanted to do. I was doing like stuff for old guys, going to the beach type stuff. So like I said, Margaritaville, and previous companies were sort of in the same vein. So I used to do a lot of like kind of the cooler, edgier stuff on my own. And I'd take custom orders and stuff like that. But since working here at Zox, it's kind of a combination of not having the time and also like my creative itches are mostly scratched working here because I get to do some pretty cool stuff. We get to work on some projects that they're a little bit outside of what I won't call it my comfort zone because I'm definitely comfortable doing it, but it's stuff that I didn't get the opportunity to mess with in like my past life.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's always a variety. Like there's always some cool new idea that Jason wants to work on and problem solve. And that's a lot of fun. So
yeah. Yeah. We can't talk about it, but even today it happened.
This is true.
It was like an idea was pitched and we're like, all right, how do we do this?
No, it's I mean, it's just kind of the normal ebb and flow of how things work here. But I
mean, that's how you get better, and you just I mean, it's the challenge too, I think.
Well, we got a lot of really smart people here, which is great because
Yeah.
it helps us. You got all those heads that are good thinkers working on a problem, and then something that may feel like there's no solution, like we just can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Like somebody will say something and it'll just snap like that, like just instantly. Everyone's like, "Oh, this is how we do it," and usually that happens within 15 minutes of talking as a group, even though you might have been struggling with something for days trying to figure out how am I going to do this. You just call the meeting, get people together, and 15 minutes later you got a solution, which is awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is interesting too, because we have a lot of people here that wear a lot of different hats.
Oh yeah.
Especially, I mean, half of our marketing team is in the production.
Yep.
Is also part of the production team.
Yeah,
so.
it's true. And that's speaking of balance. It's it's actually can be challenging. We talk about work-life balance, but even just like work balance within the different departments that people seem to be getting pulled in different directions and stuff.
Yeah.
Can be a challenge. So that's something that we're always trying to figure out what the right balance is to maximize, what they're able to output and do.
Yeah.
And while also making sure that we're not burning them out on anything at the same time. So it can be tricky.
Yeah, I can even imagine.
yeah, especially for poor Landry and Chelsea and some of the people that are that's kind of the challenge with smaller companies is people have to wear a lot of hats. Just in order to keep things flowing and to maximize your resources. You can't just keep hiring because you end up having to let people go. That's absolutely not something we want to do.
Yeah, of course.
We want to hire people and keep them on. And, unfortunately that means that you do have to wear a lot of hats sometimes, just to get things done to be able to maintain that.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's an interesting thing. Yeah. Cause I was definitely thinking about work-life balance when I chose this strap, but even like you said, balance in the workplace or
everything, honestly, it's so easy to lose sight of balance in all kinds of places in your life, whether it's work life or just like your normal, just regular life when you're outside of work, making sure that you're balancing things like, getting exercise with like play or housework or, any other number of things that are like, a drain on your time.
Yeah.
Being able to make time for everything that needs to get done, and especially the things that you should be doing for your like health.
Yeah.
That's a big challenge. So.
Oh yeah, especially. It's pretty easy to make that argument like, oh, I don't really have the time right now to like go to the gym.
Oh, who hasn't made that excuse?
Oh,
a million times.
I've made it a million times these past 2 months. Where I was like, I want to be able to have enough time to make dinner and then get to sleep on time. I still go to sleep at like 1 a.m. You know? So I was like,
I'm a bit of a night owl too. I'm not quite at 1 o'clock anymore. As I've gotten older, it's kind of come back, but I'm still like frequently like 11:30 or 12 before I'm in bed.
Oh yeah.
But what was I going to say? I had something. I can't remember. I'll remember in a minute or two. Oh, I remember. Yeah. So like kind of the way that I've figured out how to kind of balance that exercise thing is, rather than just going to the gym and doing the exercise thing for an hour, I try to find hobbies or activities that are going to get me some of that activity, that, motion with my body, whether it's going for a long walk with my wife or, I do a lot of building stuff. So I've got a lot of projects where I'm, kind of up and down and sawing stuff and putting stuff up. So you get a fair amount of physical activity from that sort of thing, which I guess I'm kind of lucky that way because I am sort of like a Renaissance guy where I'll do all kinds of different things and I'm interested in all these things. But I think for a lot of people, it's challenging to find hobbies that keep them active as well. So it's definitely a challenge.
It's funny we were talking about activities. I live very close to the office here.
Me too.
And so
I wonder who's closer between the two of us.
We'll get into that off the podcast.
Yeah, we have to figure out who's closer.
Information. But I want to start. It's close enough where I can walk.
I could walk too.
And so I was like, I'm
not gonna, but I could.
Yeah, and I've been wanting to.
Yeah.
And I was going to start walking to work this week, but I just have a bunch of equipment that I need to bring. And so I was like, oh, well, I can't do it on Tuesday because we were supposed to take pictures, like staff pictures yesterday. Yeah. I needed more lights. And so I was like, well, I can't walk to work with those.
Yeah, I might pull the bike out someday and ride in. That's a little bit quicker. I think I'm about 2 miles or so.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get, speaking of balance, I'm trying to get that balance in, where it's like spending the time at work, but then also like putting in that time to do some exercise. It's like if I live so close, I might as well just walk. It's like a 20-minute walk.
This is true.
Yeah, I'll just throw that out there. 20-minute walk.
So you're probably slightly closer than me. I'm guessing.
Yeah. So but it is nice to have that. Helps too. Like on all my lunches, I'll just go home.
Yeah. Well, I have to now because the dogs are sitting there by their little lonesomes and they got their legs crossed because I got to the bathroom. So
yeah, that's a nice thing too, just to be able to go and walk really quick. Come back.
Usually run home, spend a little bit of time with the dogs before I come back, which is nice. But I do miss being able to run and get food at whatever the restaurants that we usually go to for lunch. I miss that a little bit, but I'm saving money.
There you go. Oh, that's another good thing too, is saving money. Balance too. It's funny when you do some financing and stuff, and you're like, wow, you spend so much money on like takeout or something every week.
Avocado toast.
I'm not that young. Okay, I'm not that young.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Right to the heart, man. Although it is really good, I will say.
It's true.
It's just way too expensive. It's way cheaper to do it on your own.
It's absurd how much they charge for that stuff.
Yeah, it's like $6-7.
Yeah, for a piece of bread and half an avocado.
And it's usually like one slice of toast.
Yep.
And then half an avocado.
It's ridiculous.
It's not even filling. But anyways, well, speaking of which, like if you're spending $8 on that, like it's what, $3, $2.50 for an avocado, and then $3 for a full loaf of bread.
Depends on where you live and what time of year it is. I mean, I think probably down here in the summertime, you probably get them for $1 a pop.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the time to get them. Yeah,
absolutely. Same thing in California when we were over there. They were about $1 in the summertime, I think. Went up a little bit in the winter.
And they're big too because it's the season.
Yep.
So, but yeah, getting that balance too is like balancing, kind of knowing when to spend money and when not to.
Yeah.
I think, cooking at home is like makes a huge difference.
Definitely is. It's something I should be doing a lot more than I do. I love cooking, but here goes the time excuse again. I just feel like I don't have the time, even though I really do. It's just a matter of just saying, okay, instead of sitting down for 30 minutes and relaxing, I'm going to make dinner first.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do
that while I'm up. Yeah, that's what I try to do too. It's it's like forcing habits kind of.
Yeah.
So when I'm cooking, a lot of the stuff I'm not really babysitting, you know. So like I'll throw like chicken on in a pan and like cook that.
Right.
While that's cooking, I'll go and like clean. That's usually when I do a lot of my cleaning. It's like I'll go and clean something really quickly or put something away or start laundry, something like that. Yeah, and then I'll come back, turn them over, go clean something else. Yeah. That way, I've just gotten home, I'm still up. Don't really have any excuses, but that's kind of how like I balance that out. Because again, the time thing.
It always feels like it's a time thing, even though it really isn't. It's the time thing's really an excuse.
It is.
I think we all make it.
It's an easy excuse to like settle into.
Or I'm tired. I'm exhausted from my long day. Like, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the cooking could take like 30 minutes at the most.
At the most.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it depends on what you're making, but
true. Yeah.
I do have a tendency to be a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to that sort of stuff. So, like when I cook, it like I'll go all out. You know, it's not like a little thing. You know, if I'm cooking a little thing, it's gonna be 15 minutes of me cooking something. But if I'm cooking for real, like that's usually 45 minutes, an hour minimum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll make like a chicken Caesar salad and like cooking the chicken. I mean, it's like that's like 15, 20 minutes to make a salad.
That used to be one of my favorite things to make as a kid, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I'd come home because I think the first time I had a Caesar salad, I was probably 12 years old or something. I was like, this is awesome. And then, like, you know, for a 12-year-old to like any salad is pretty ridiculous. So I think for like a year or two after I first had that, like I'd come home and like after school cook some chicken and make myself a Caesar salad. It was just like the thing.
Yeah. Well, really quickly, we actually have some customer stories.
Cool.
Quick aside, you can submit these stories. Please do. It's part of our blogs thing, and so you can actually do it online. We'll have links and information down in the description here. But I have 2 stories from customers talking about balance, so I want to share those really quickly. And I actually have a photo, too. I just got from Cameron, which is pretty funny.
Right on.
But first story, this comes from Marcy. She says, I purchased the balance strap for my twin sister. That's an interesting take on balance.
Twins. It is, actually, yeah.
She is a single mom, and her son's father hasn't been in their lives, physically or financially, for over 10 years now. She has been mother and father to him all these years. She has done it all on a teacher salary. That's tough to do. With the most amazing strength and resilience. She has put her whole self into raising him, heart and soul, and he has grown into the most caring, compassionate, funny, resourceful, smart, and loving man. Wow, that's a lot of adjectives. Because of her effort. He just turned 18 and is graduating from high school this year. Oh, congratulations. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It's been simultaneously pure pleasure and acute pain for her to experience all these lasts with him this year. My sister and I are identical twins, and what she feels, I also feel. So I know how hard it's been for her. When I found the balance strap, I had to have it for her. When it came in, I took it to her, and we both had a good cry from the stark truth of the words associated with the strap. She wears it all the time as a reminder to savor all the good things and to try and leave the bad things behind. That's awesome.
I'm just going to read what the card actually says since she referenced it in the story. So I'm going to hold it up so that you guys can see first what the strap looks like, in case you're unfamiliar with it.
It's going to be out of focus here. I'll do it on mine. Mine's got the autofocus, yeah.
And then I'll read the card. So the back of the card says, the good news is nothing lasts forever. The bad news is nothing lasts forever. So that's pretty poignant, with regards to the story that we just read. Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense, Like you get these things that you love and that you hate, and unfortunately the news for both of them is that nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
So the bad stuff goes away, but so does the good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good message in continuing.
Yeah.
And moving on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So second story we have, just super quick. It comes from Don Lovell, or Lovell? Lovell?
I don't know.
Lovell?
I would say Lovell.
Lovell?
Yeah, probably.
Let's go with that. I absolutely loved this design and was so excited when they included the strap in the Retro 10 last year. For me, finding balance in my life is something I've struggled with for a really long time. Now that my kids are grown, I'm getting older, my life pretty much revolves around work. If I'm not working, I am doing overdue chores around the house, and if I'm not doing either of those, I'm usually sleeping. There are so many things I want to do while not being able to do them, so balance reminds me that all the work and no play makes a dull and slightly unfulfilled me. I promised myself that I'd take time to work on my hobbies, organizing my Zocs, drawing, painting, and various other arts and crafts I've been wanting to do for a while. If I'm not wearing my balance strap, it serves as a headband for Deadpool. He sits on my desk and reminds me that life is to be experienced, enjoyed, and most of all, fun. You only live once. That's interesting. Yeah, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about being able to balance all your hobbies and work.
I almost felt like
sleep.
I could have written this myself, to be honest.
Yeah. You covered a lot of the topics that Don does in this. Yeah. So, but finding that that balance with like literally everything that you do is like one of the hardest things.
It really is. You know, I've some of the things that I've kind of learned over the years, especially when it comes to work-life balance, since that's the one that's probably the one that most people kind of focus on, or that affects the largest number of people, is, you know, changing my own mindset when it comes to, you know, my career and my employment. You know, you always hear people, you know, talking about, like when you're in social environments and especially meeting new people or even catching up with old friends, you always hear people talking about, well, what's new at work, or somebody wants to know what you do, or that
what
sort
you do
of
for
thing,
a living.
right?
That kind of
So
thing.
I try to actually avoid those kind of conversations. I actively tell people I'm not interested in talking about that, or I'll change the subject. But the big one for me is a few years ago, I think this was my boss at Margaritaville, actually, the job I was at before here. You know, I was having a little bit of a kind of a come to Jesus in my career at that time frame, and he kind of turned me on to something. He said, "Hey, Nick, tell me who you are, but you're not allowed to talk about work or what you do." Okay. And if you like really think about that exercise and say, just like describe yourself, who are you? Can you do it without talking about what you do for a living? You know, and that's something that I think a lot of people, especially younger people, earlier on in their careers, really kind of focus on and kind of build their identities around, right? And when you build your identity around what you do, it really makes the balance challenging, because you're so focused on career and you're so focused on, you know, that next step, that next rung on that ladder, that you'll forego a lot of the stuff that you really need personally in order to kind of reach that step. And that can come into just your personal life. It could also come in to affect your relationships with people. You know, if you have kids, it can affect those relationships. I mean, it's important to try and delineate like you as a person and you as a professional as two separate kind of things, and not let your profession define who you are too much. There's rare instances of people where there kind of should be some overlap, and that'd be people like Jason or his brothers, which Zox is their life. Zox is who they are. I mean, that's their business. They've put everything into it. It's a little bit different than, you know, somebody coming in and working for a company. Like, you should have your own interests that are separate, and you know, things that are important to you that are separate from like your work situation. So
that's interesting. And that was your boss?
Yeah, it was my what I usually refer to him as my rabbi. You know, so he wasn't my direct supervisor at that company, but he was, you know, in the upper management level. He was the guy that I knew I could go to and talk to about stuff. And,
that's awesome.
You know, so it was great. I'm still great friends with him. We talk all the time. I still do a birthday card for his daughter every year, and have since, you know, she was born while I was working there. I think she's 12 or 13 now. So every year I do a birthday card for him. He just hits me up, and, you know, a month before her birthday, and says, "Hey, I need this." So
that's cool. Yeah. That's awesome. That's a really cool thing to have, is that kind of management, which is kind of lacking, to say the least. But no, that's an interesting thing to think about. Is I like how you said it was an exercise. It's like, sit down and like, how would you describe yourself as a? It really is as a person.
Most people, if you don't specify, you're not allowed to talk about work. The very first thing they're going to talk about is what they do for a living. Yeah, almost 100% of the time. Try it next time you're out meeting new people. Like, hey, who are you? Tell me about yourself. Yeah. The first thing they're going to talk about is probably their work.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You probably get asked about the most. You know,
it is, like, and it's a shame, because you know, I think as a society, especially in the Western world, I don't know how it is in a lot of other places, but we have a tendency to almost judge people based on what they do, and kind of categorize them as like, are they, you know, what kind of tier of a person they are based on what they do, which is completely and totally wrong. Like, you know, you can have the worst person in the world in like the highest level position, or you can have the best person in the world driving a school bus, you know, and it's just it's either what makes them happy, or you don't know what their life circumstances is. So to judge somebody based on what it is they do, it's not really fair. You know? So
it would be interesting to try that exercise on somebody and have them say, well, what I love to do is what my job is. That would be cool.
That's, you know, you do run into that a little bit, usually in the younger years, because that's, you know, if people are lucky enough to be able to get into a career that is focused on what their interests are, then for a while anyways, like, it's going to be really exciting. They're going to feel like, that is kind of who I am. Yeah. But you start to find out over time that interest wanes the more you're doing it on, for pay. Basically, like the more that you have to do it all day long and do it in ways that maybe you don't want to do it, it starts to wear on you, and you don't want to do that sort of stuff in your off time. It stops being your hobby. So they say do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, that's sort of true, but you also run a pretty high risk of your interest in that thing kind of waning over time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Most of my friends are either still fresh in their career by a few years, and so they are excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, most of my friends are like late 20s to mid to late 30s.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's
it's pretty typical, and we culturally, it's just kind of ingrained in us that that's what you talk about.
Yeah.
But I would challenge people to try and step back from that and kind of look at it in a different way and just say, hey, career has nothing to do with who I am.
Yeah.
It's
cool.
not me.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I'm separate from that. So,
yeah. I'm going to take that exercise. I'm going to do it. I'm going to report back to you because that's fascinating. Yeah, I've never thought of that.
It's an interesting thing to think about, and yeah, I mean, like we've just been trained our whole lives to think that way. Our parents talk that way when their friends are over, and every time you have an interaction at a bar or a club, or you're meeting some new people, like that's exactly how the conversation always goes, and it's always about that. I even have to remind my wife like all the time, like, hey, we're not talking about work. I don't want to talk about work. It's not what life is about. Like life is about other stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
Work is just how we make money. And I mean, I'm blessed to be able to work here, and I love working here and get to do some cool stuff. But in order to balance it, you got to like kind of say, okay, work is done at 6 o'clock or 6:30 or whatever, and after that, you're doing something else. You know,
that's a good point.
As much as your career allows for that. I mean, obviously in production, I've got to hop on. Chats with people after hours because I might have a factory overseas that needs to speak with me, and they have different hours than I do. So it does happen, but as much as I'm able to, I try to divorce myself from the work day as soon as I've clocked out.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, balance.
Yeah,
there you go. This is that picture that Don sent.
Oh, nice.
So that's the Deadpool with the headband, and I'll put it up on the screen. Yeah,
very cool.
That's funny. All right, so that's balance. Thanks for coming on, Nick.
No problem,
super quick episode. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to plug? Anything coming up soon that you want to talk about?
That's coming up soon.
There's not a whole lot you can talk about.
Nothing I can really talk about right now. I mean, obviously, we're really excited to get started on, especially monsters. It's like my favorite thing of the year. I get to write poems for 31 different monsters and kind of polish those up and name them, and Darren gets to draw them, and it's a lot of fun. So it's exciting because we're getting started working with that. But as far as things that are coming out in the immediate future, nothing in particular that I'm able to talk about right now.
Sure.
I know Jason's got some plans, and he'll, bring those up on a live at some point. But yeah.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on.
No problem.
Cool. All right. Later, everybody. Again, I'll leave all the links in the description so you can check those out there. And remember, subscribe. Because I'm watching.
Later, guys.